experience is a lot different than last year's, in some, mostly in good ways, right? There's the new excitement of being back together, whether that's returning and seeing familiar faces, or the infusion of excitement from the new talent, the new personalities. I've been impressed with how the respective groups have meshed. A shout out and kudos to our returning players, our leadership, and that it seemed integrated from day one. When you look up and at a team meal or out at the field, sure, the freshmen tend to stick together because they travel to and from the dorms together and stuff, but they integrate really quickly. In any of the team activities that we've had thus far, they've been willing to speak up and be brave, and that's going to serve us well going forward. So we haven't had many challenges quite yet. We haven't had much adversity yet. That's when you really see the test of character within an individual or a team. But that's to come. But it's been a nice start thus far.
After the NCAA game last year, the first thing you said at the podium was, hopefully this fuels us into the off season. Did it?
It's a good question. I hope so. I think so. That was 8-9 months ago, and so it's hard to keep that sort of motivation, those feelings that were very raw in that moment, fresh. It's partly our job as a coaching staff to figure out how to channel that feeling that we had, where we thought we left something on the table, where we thought we could have kept playing, and with that comes a sense of urgency and a sense of desperation, which, like I said, it's hard to hold for 9 months leading into a season, and it's really hard to hold 3 months during a season. That's why only the best teams can be consistent and find ways to win week in and week out. Find ways to win on Thursday and then do it again on Sunday. And so we've been messaging it. We have some experience of now players understanding what it takes to compete at a certain level. It's their responsibility and job to try to pass that down to others. It's certainly our responsibility as a coaching staff. I do think we came in, quote unquote, ready for the most part. Our philosophy as a coaching staff is let the players have their summer, trust that they'll use that summer to their advantage and to our advantage. And day one, they'll show us instead of us, micromanaging every step of that way. And it was a good step coming back largely fit. I think that's a statement of intent. So it allowed us to, as we program the 16 days that we have from day one to opening kickoff, it allowed us to have a more advanced starting point than we had last year.
You had a great quote about there's going to be friction when you have a higher standard. And at some point it clicked late. Could you sense that everybody bought in when you won those 8 games in a row and 4 in the tournament, beat 17, you beat 7, that everybody was on the same page?
Yeah, great job with these quotes. I forgot that I said some of these things. You do have a sense, I think, when you have a team that's locked in, a team that's on the same page, and a team that's willing to work for each other, fight for each other. I think we as a coaching staff can feel that. On the flip side, I think there are moments when those elements are missing that we can feel it too. And I think that's where the friction can come, I'd like to think I know, and we as a coaching staff know, when we're hitting on all cylinders, when the buy-in's at a high level, when the connectedness is where it's supposed to be. And I think part of the teaching process and learning process last year was redefining what that looked like. If we're gonna hopefully introduce a new standard, we have to hold a new standard, and that's not comfortable. And certainly I could be accused of, I bet you some of the players at some point are like, man, what does it take to make this guy happy? And the cool thing is, once we started clicking, so to speak, it was more fun to play for them, and it was more fun to coach for me, and that feeling didn't exist anymore because I was having as much fun as they were, and that's a hard place to get to. That takes some friction, that takes some adversity, takes some learning moments. We all wish it was that easy, but then all teams would be good. Then there wouldn't be a reason for us to all compete on Thursday and Sunday. And so we have to reintroduce it to this team. I think we'll find moments where we thought and assumed that they had, that a message that they understood last year all of a sudden transfers to this year, and then we'll probably face a harsh reality, and we'll have to teach it again, and all that comes with that. But hopefully there's less of those lessons. Hopefully we have, again, either a higher starting point or a quicker way to snap into what our expectations are, and that we can lean on some of that experience to just keep moving this program forward.
I was going to follow up on that because I remember during that run where you won out, basically, you guys talked a lot about looking back at the ones you let get away.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like this group, because of having gone through that, has kind of elevated themselves past, like, maybe not letting those things happen again? And I say letting because obviously there are two teams, but
Correct.
You see what I'm saying?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to think so, but we're all human.
Right.
And it's, if you look at any sport at any level, the team that just won, and hey, we lost our last game, so that's not necessarily us, but the team that just won makes it really hard to win again. And there is a level of complacency or forgetting what it took to the sacrifice that it took, the disease of more, disease of me, whatever Pat Riley's quote is. That's a real thing, and we are very aware of it. We coached some good teams that did some good things and have had this predicament before. We're going to do our best to find that right mix, that right balance of, hey, let's be proud of what we did. Let's use that as confidence, motivation, know-how, all those things. Like, we don't have to run from that. We should be proud. That should allow us to expect to win games that when we walk on the field. But there's the flip side of what makes us different and special as a program, in my opinion. What's always going to define this program, as long as I coach here, is a level of commitment and selflessness that other teams aren't willing to match, aren't willing to buy in together. And if we don't have that, we're not going to find the success we want or we need. We'll see. We'll see when on Thursday in the first match, and then as soon as that game's over, whenever anyone, please, some of y'all come and let's talk after. Win or lose, we're going to talk about Sunday right away and how Thursday didn't matter. And there's about 19 of those moments throughout a year, and you try to stack the good ones as much as you can.
As far as personnel goes too, you had some girls who really broke out last year, some who got preseason recognition this year, some of them are the same. Do you feel like there's an elevated confidence in some individuals on this team, just from A, delivering last year, and then B, some of the love they're getting here early?
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah.
They should. Those are good players. There's a reason they were picked by our peers. The two who sat here, Sage and Jill, I think will have a lot to say about our attack this year and how many goals we could score and how dangerous we can be. Lexi, the first team all-conference player, returning 9 goals. She scored quite a few in the spring. She looked real dangerous in our exhibition. That is an exciting thing about our program right now, is we return a lot of firepower. I would be very disappointed if we don't score more goals this year. I'd be very disappointed if we aren't considered a dangerous team, and all the individual stuff will come. So I think if we're able to accomplish those couple objectives, when postseason awards come around, I think some of these same names might be getting some recognition and maybe even more than last year. But I don't know, it's the same speech as before. With that comes expectations, with that comes a scouting report that they're going to try to take away what you do. Our style, and Sage and Lexi up there, it might have taken people by surprise a little bit last year. I don't think it will this year. My bet is if we buy in and we see the best versions of those players, that they're going to be even more effective. But I think they look, I'll say, let's just say Lexi, Sage, Jill, who last year, maybe every single game started as our front three. Those players look like they've been here, and they look like they are motivated for the year, and they look dangerous.
On the back line, and especially at center back, is kind of one of the few places where you have to replace some key contributors from last year, and you brought in transfers. How do you feel like that's coming together so far?
Yeah, that is the position I wish we had a little bit more time, right? that clock's ticking backwards the second we hit the field on July 29th, and we knew that was going to be our biggest question mark, whether it was the players we lost, whether it's return to players trying to return from injury, whether it's integrating transfers or bringing in a freshman. That is the position that still has the most question marks, that we're still trying to figure out as a staff, that we have extra video, positional video here this afternoon, to try to clean up some of the stuff that we saw on film the other day. I think we've always played one exhibition, and whereas most programs play 2 or 3, I stand by that decision. In some ways, I wish we had another exhibition just for that position, because it's really, really hard to replicate real reps, to have to respond to what an opponent does. When you only have to defend your team and the players you see every day in the system that we always play, it's not the same as answering questions and figuring out solutions on the fly, under pressure, while you're tired, against good players. And that, in one way, like, what a great experience that Iowa game was, preseason top 15 or whatever it may be, that we had to face like live bullets, so to speak. But I think, it leaves us still with questions, quite frankly. I think we'll figure it out. I think we're waiting for the speech they're about to get is, hey, we're waiting for, like, why don't you solve this for us, right? I would love to have players step up and say, this is why I deserve an opportunity, and once I get that opportunity, I'm gonna run with it. That very well may happen, but we're still figuring it out right now. There's a lot of people in the mix.
Coach, when you look at this team, there's always going to be a mystery with the first game of the season. Roster turnover happens. But what is it like now? You haven't seen what the other team's going to look like on tape because they really haven't played. In the same way for your team, as the head coach, is it more dramatically more difficult now in the age of that we're in right now?
Match one, kind of the unknown. Today's day and age, once you get about halfway through a season, or even like 3-4 games, someone on someone's staff has watched like every minute you played, right? And it's easy now to click on a button and you could see every set piece a team has run. And so all the stuff that used to take forever is quicker, but it also means that we have access to everything. And so whoever's in charge of scout at whatever school, my huge shout out goes to them, because I know the next 3 months of your life are going to be challenging. We split that duty a little bit here, but there are some certain coaches that take the brunt of it. We will do our best to prepare our team and show what the team has done in the past, kind of talk through the players they've lost, maybe even look at the players they returned and transferred. Iowa had a bunch of transfers in, and we tried to speculate. I think the one good thing about our program in this particular situation is, I think our game plan, our scout, our messaging to the team is much less opponent dependent. So we're always going to try to do the same things. The coaching points are always going to be the same. That the adjustments, our job, honestly, as we sit in coaching meetings, is like whatever adjustment we make, smallest adjustment to the fewest people possible. That's like our objective. And I think that hopefully allows our team to not have any sort of questioning of our own identity or our own tactics. And that applies to Missouri State, who we don't know what they're going to do on game 1, and that will apply to maybe the best team in the country, Florida State, that we play in a couple weeks, where if you do a scouting report, you could start getting pretty nauseous pretty quick, because it's like, well, that's the best forward in the country. That's and if we start micromanaging every little detail about that, we're going to lose our identity, and we're going to play slow, and it's going to be a long night. And so as we approach even that game, I'm going to kind of give the same answer, which is genuine, of they're going to get the Kansas soccer that they see on film without much difference. And I don't think our team's a little bit different. Our tactic, we're always trying to evolve, but people should always know what they're going to get when they face us. It's not going to change that much.
Livy made a comment this morning. She's never been around a team that's this close, that has bonded like this. Everybody tries to do that, but few are able to accomplish it. How do you explain that?
Well, Livy's a pretty awesome kid herself, and so she sets herself up for success in that way. Came in with like an open mind and an open heart. Left a program that she was, I believe, captaining, and so I think it helps when you kind of understand, the burden that can place on people, and that every culture is someone that everyone has ownership in, not just the named captains. That's something that we try to stress to this team is, hey, you might have just shown up here day one, but this is just as much your team as it is someone else's. And no, I mean, I wish I could take credit for it. We try to create a culture that's welcoming and open, and but we have just a good group of people to start with, and ones that are hopefully hungry and want to be good, and they know to be good. It sure helps if you can infuse people and talent naturally, and everyone plays better when they're comfortable, and which would be hard to do under me, quite honestly. Like that's why it's just tough for new players. Like, hey, we do things a little bit differently, and you're going to be, my job in some way, shape, or form is to have you understand what you should be doing on the field, what your teammate expects you to do on the field, and with that comes a certain amount of communication that's sometimes easy and sometimes hard. And again, like I think that's where our team can set other players up for success, explaining the why, explaining their own journey, their ups and downs, how they grew through it. And yeah, we just have a good group of people right now, and hopefully the good vibes that we have on day whatever last through the season.
Anything else for Coach? Thanks, Coach.
Okay, my pleasure.